Warning, this video contains my own personal opinion and is susceptible to my personal biases. Thank you so much for watching. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to this, the first episode of my Magic the Gathering Throne of Eldraine set rotation weekend. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, we're going to be starting out with what we're losing. This is my personal top 15 cards we're going to be losing from the current standard. Let's go. I'd like to start this video by saying that the cards on this list are based on my own personal opinion, how much I've played with them and how much I enjoy playing them over their basic standing in the current meta or standard or anything like that. This is not top cards, this is just my opinion of cards I like to play, I've played the most, and they are just my favorite. Starting off with Resplendent Angel. Resplendent Angel is one of the first mythics you get in the Magic the Gathering's arena game. It's a 3/3 for 3. It has a mana cost of 1 colorless, 2 white. It's an angel creature token with flying, and it has at the beginning of each end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. You may also pay 3 colorless and 3 white to give it +2/+2 and lifelink until end of turn. If you do this, it's a 5/5 with lifelink, meaning it'll pump itself, so when you hit your opponent with it, you gain 5 life, therefore you can create your angel creature token. But my biggest issue with it, and the reason it's so high on my list, is because most of the time when I first started playing with it, it would just get lightning bolted or killed in some way super easily. So I never really at first got the full playability out of this I was able to. I've been able to get a lot more playability out of it recently in my blue-white Flyers tribal deck. So yeah, it's a good card, but pretty high on my list, still in my top 15 though. Coming in at number 14 is Poisontipped Archer. It's a 2/3 for 4, costing 2 colorless, 1 black, and 1 green. It has reach, death touch, and whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. First off, I'd say one of the main reasons I am drawn so much to this card is because of the color combination of green-black. At my first ever pre-release, it was for Return to Ravnica, and I chose the Gilgari-themed colors, and they've always held a special place in my heart ever since then. Then, as far as playing it is concerned, I like it just because whenever you play it, your opponent does know it's there. With Death Touch and Reach, it can block pretty much anything and kill pretty much anything. This can be good for stopping your opponent from being able to just swing at you with their best creature. And then if your opponent is just sitting there and you're swinging at them with your weak creatures or just swinging at them in general or playing some other aristocrat style, you get to ping your opponent every time one of your creatures dies, which is nice. Coming up next at number 13 is Legion Lieutenant. It's a 2/2 for 2, costing 1 white and 1 black. It's a Vampire Knight, and it gives all of the vampires you control +1/+1. This card I like specifically just because of how easy it fits into a vampire tribal deck. That's how I discovered this card. I was building a new white-black vampire tribal deck, and he just fits in there so nicely. He's a really good turn 2 drop with basic stats, and he buffs every other vampire I have in play. It's not too complicated, he's just a simply good fit in vampire tribal. As far as pricing is concerned on this one, I just couldn't find its pricing. If you know how much it costs, either on the online one or just on paper, please let me know in the comments below. Coming in at number 12 is Siren Staunton. It's a 1/1 for 1, costing 1 blue. It's a Siren Pirate Wizard with flying. Now, just before anything else, that's a super awesome creature type. It also has pay 1 blue, sacrifice Siren Stormtamer, and you can counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. First off, this card is another one I found out about in my specifically blue-white flyer tribal deck. This card is just a really good turn 1 drop. It's 1 for 1/1 of flying, that's pretty decent. But more importantly, if it stays on the battlefield, you can just counter it if you use it. Not counter it. You can sacrifice it to counter something if you need to. You're playing something, it gets countered, boom, Siren Stormtamer. Your favorite card is about to get murdered, boom, Siren Stormtamer. Holy shit, that guy's using an ability to do something you dislike. What you gonna do? That's right, boom, Siren Stormtamer. It's fun, it's pretty good, it's just a decent little 1 drop to start your game out with. Next, we've got number 11, Psychic Coercion. It's a 3-drop enchantment with, whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Guess what kind of deck I put this in? That's right, it's a card draw deck. Oh wait, no, that actually makes sense. It was a mill deck, which was also kind of synergistic with card draw. I just said the first kind of deck that jumped into my mind because, yeah, technically with it, it's card draw into mill. but it was more just a mill deck which had this, because it's really good. It's just a good inclusion in any mill deck. At the beginning of your turn, each opponent just discards the top 2 cards of their library. That's really good. It's a 3-drop, it's a decent turn 3 play, that's why I played it. It's really that simple. Moving on to number 10, we have the only instant on this list, which is kind of surprising as I generally like instants and sorceries, but most of the ones I like are still staying in standard. It's Demystified. It's a 1-drop, paying 1 white to destroy target enchantment. I just like this as a basic include in any white deck, or at least sideboarding it, as you can deal with any enchantment for just 1. It's simple, it's easy, it's cheap. If you are playing against an enchantment deck, it's pretty easy to get rid of their best enchantment. If you're playing against auras, it's easy to go against their biggest aura. It's just simple. You can keep it in your hand to deal with something annoying your opponent drops. It doesn't take too much mana. It's just a good 1-drop, I think. Next up is number 9, Reassembling Skeleton. It's a 1/1 for 2 that costs 1 colorless and 1 black, and you can tap 1 colorless and 1 black to return Reassembling Skeleton from the graveyard to the battlefield. Tapped. Now, I like this card just because you can recur it from your graveyard. It's really simple. I like sacrifice decks, I just like playing with the graveyard, and that's how I discovered him in a steal your opponent's card / just aristocrat sacrifice style your deck. And he's something really simple because anytime you need to sacrifice something and you don't have something you want to let go, you're just like, Reassembling Skeleton, boom, in the graveyard, next turn, boom, tap 2, he's back. It's really simple, it's really nice. It's just something you can bring back from your graveyard whenever you need to, so you don't have to worry about it dying. At number 8, we have Twilight Prophet. It's a 2/4 for 4, costing 2 colorless and 2 black. It's a vampire cleric with flying. It has Ascend, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Then you gain X life, where X is that card's converted mana cost. This card stands out as it's the first black mythic rare you get in Magic Arenas, which means it's just one of the first really good black cards you get in the game. And for me, that meant it was an auto-include in all the first black decks I built, and later it was included in my Vampire Tribal deck. It got way more play out of me than I would have originally thought, as it was also included in my Vampire Tribal deck, and it's just a fun card to play. It's useful because it has flying, so you can hit over your opponent's heads. It's got okay stats with the 4/4/2/4, but at least you can use it as a decent blocker if you have to. But it really stands out with its Ascend ability, because the additional card draw and life gain it gives you can be really good in the late game. That's how I found it anyway, and it's just a fun and useful card. And I'm going to miss seeing it go, as it's going to really fuck over my Vampire Tribal deck losing that. Next up at number 7 is Carnage Tyrant. It's a 7/6 for 6, costing 4 colors and 2 green. It's a dinosaur, it can't be countered, it has trample and hexproof. This card is just good. It's got decent stats as it's got slightly above average stats actually, as a 7/6 for 6, and it has trample, but more importantly, it can't be countered and it has hexproof, meaning when you get it on the battlefield, it's really hard to get rid of it. You either have to block it specifically with something bigger than it, something with death touch, or you have to wipe the board, which is pretty narrow for getting rid of stuff, as it stops the basic blue strategy of just countering it, and it stops black or red strategies of dealing it damage or just straight up murdering it. So yeah, really good, just simply good card. Also, it is the first mythic rare you get in Magic Arena, as it's in the first dual color deck, which contains one of the 5, I think, mythics it is, that you would get as just your startup in Magic Arena, meaning it was the first mythic I got in the thing, meaning it's just like, hell yeah, got a mythic, let's use it. Another one. Next up, we have Rekindling Phoenix. It's a 4/3 for 4, it'll cost you 2 colorless, 2 red, it's a phoenix creature with flying, and it has, when Rekindling Phoenix dies, create an 0/1 red elemental creature token with, if at the beginning of your upkeep you have a Rekindling Phoenix in your graveyard, you may sacrifice the token and return Rekindling Phoenix from the graveyard to the battlefield. Now this combines 2 of my favorite things from the Magic Arenas app, being one of the first mythics you get, this one being the one for the red color, and recursion from the graveyard, like Reassembling Skeleton. It really is that simple. As the first red mythic I got, it was just an auto-include in all my red decks until I started expanding into more and more strategies, but it was a big include in my Aristocrat Sacrifice deck, as it just keeps coming back, and it's really good for coming back as it has flying, so you're able to just fly over most of your opponent's stuff and hit them for 4 each turn. And using that simple fact, I've been able to win a lot of games with him, which is why he appears at this number on my list. Coming up at number 5, you know him, you love him, he's Llanowar Elves. Or, they're Llanowar Elves, I guess, technically? I don't know. But it's a 1/1 for 1, it'll cost you 1 green, and it's an Elf Druid, and it has tap, add 1 green. This card is simple, it's pretty much a staple of the green color by this point, it's just really good turn 1 ramp. You drop it, next turn you've got free mana, it's that simple. This card has been around for years, and I'm sure we'll be seeing it again. There's not much more I have to say for it, other than if you're building a green deck, it's a pretty simple turn 1 include. Next up at number 4 is Muldrova the Gravetide. It's a 6/6 for 6, costing 3 colorless, 1 black, 1 green, and 1 blue. It's a legendary elemental avatar. It has, during your upkeep, you may replay up to 1 permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. This card is good. It's great for Commander. I love the idea of playing as her in Commander, and if we ever get Commander on Magic Arenas, I really want to build around her. But she's just a good card. She's got basic body stats of a 6/6 for 6. She's an and then her ability, just while she's in play, you get to bring back stuff from your graveyard. And from other entries on this list, you can tell how much I love recurring stuff from this graveyard. It's also the only mythic I think that appears on this list that I actually managed to draw from packs in Magic Online, which I'm really happy about because she was one of the cards I want most. I like her color type, I just like what she does, I love the synergy of bringing stuff back, just because in Sacrifice, you sacrifice stuff, you don't have to worry about sacking it. If your stuff dies, bingo, bango, bongo, what's that? It's a Muldrova. Where is that thing? Back on play. Plus, you can also bring back lands, which is one of the big things for me with this, because now you also can sacrifice lands, you don't have to worry so much about losing lands, and if you don't have lands in hand but have them in graveyard, you still get to make your land play for a turn. That is the big thing for me with Muldrova, though. It still counts as playing that card. Like, that's something I didn't really know that much about with Muldrova before I actually played online. I thought it was just like you could play it without paying its mana cost, but no, it's playing it as in playing it. You only get to play 1 land a turn, either from your hand or from your graveyard, and then you have to tap to play things. So that's one thing I really like about the Magic the Gathering's arena online, because it also just helps clarify things like that for people like me, who are too lazy to look too deep into it. First of the honorable mentions is Mox Amber. Like all the Moxes, it's a 0-drop legendary artifact which has tap, do something with mana. For this one, it's add 1 mana of any color that could be produced by a legendary creature or planeswalker you control. I really wish I could have drawn this so I could have played with it, because I just like free mana acceleration, but I didn't get to. My other honorable mention is Zakama Primal Calamity. This card is another one I sadly never got to play because I never draw it, but look at it! It's a 9/9 for 9. It's awesome! It's a 9/9. When it comes in, you get to untap all your lands and activate all its abilities if you cast it for pure lands. This card I like just because it's big, and big cards like this are just awesome. Coming into our final 3, at the number 3 spot, we're going to have actually a cycle of cards, and that's going to be our dual-colored rare land cycle. This cycle of lands has, if you control a land of the type that is one of the 2 types reduced by this dual land, it comes in untapped. Now, these dual lands are just good. Dual lands are good. They produce 1 mana of any 2 types, which just make them better in dual-colored decks. And the rare lands like these ones that come into play untapped under a specific set of circumstances are good. Now, they're not the best. Right now in Standard, we do still have shock lands, which are one of the best dual land cycles, just because all you got to do is pay 2 life, tap them, come in untapped. We also have the dual land cycle that are the scry lands, which are okay, but these lands I'm gonna miss. I have quite a few of them in Magic Arena, so it's gonna be sad losing all of those and trying to just regain all the other dual lands like the shock lands and the scry lands. But yeah, you can't really have a big cycle of lands like this leave Standard without missing them in some way. So that's why they're going to be appearing as the number 3 spot on this list. Coming in at number 2 is Shalai, Voice of Plenty. probably butchered that name, I'm sorry. It's a 3/4 for 4 with a mana cost of 3 green, 1 white. It's a legendary angel creature with flying, and it gives planeswalkers, you, and creatures you control hexproof. It also has play 4 colorless, 2 green, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. But the main reason I play this, the main reason I love this card, is just the sweeping protection. Giving everything that I care about, creatures, planeswalkers, me, hexproof is amazing. Like, just, it's so good. I love playing this card just for the protection. If you can get a token copy of it out that's non-legendary, then you've got protection for it. It's going to be so hard to get rid of your entire board. But even if you only have that in play, and you have a ton of creatures that are good, your opponent has to deal with your Shalai? Fuck. Your opponent has to deal with your Shalai before it deals with any of your big threats, which is another reason it makes this really good. Then also, if you're playing it with green, you can boost all your creatures, which is a nice secondary ability, but the only reason I play this, really, is for just the sweeping hexproof on everything you own. I love this card. It's an auto-include in pretty much all my white decks, or at least it was until now, because sadly it's leaving standard. Shalai, you're gonna be missed. By me, at least. Crying face emoji. And finally, in our number 1 spot, it's going to be Helm of the Host. It's a legendary artifact, it's an equipment, it costs 4 colorless mana, and it has equip 5, and at the beginning of each combat, if it's equipped, create a non-legendary token of equipped creature, it has haste. I love this card. Like, I legit love this card. It is an auto-include in pretty much any deck I have built in Magic Arenas, just because I really like it. I know it's a 4-drop with equip 5, so it's pretty clunky, but I like the fact that you can play it and then just equip it next turn if you have the mana. I know that's 2 turns to equip it, but once it's equipped, as long as it's on a creature, you just get so much value out of it. I mean, I have at least. I love this card. I love making legendary creatures especially just multiply with this card. Like, I have had so many really fun, just game-winning strats just using Helm of the Host. I've had one really fun one where I just put it on a creature with, whenever it comes into play, Proliferate in a token deck, and just every turn, it's a big body, I boost everything else I have. It's just fun. I love this card so much. I know it's really, with the mana cost and the equip cost, it's more suited for a slower format like good old-fashioned Commander, and if I get it in real life, or just if they add Commander, I'm going to play with it in my Commander deck, because I love this card. I know it's not great, I know it's not the best, but goddammit is it fun. It's just a fun card, which lets you flood the board, and it's a card I really enjoy playing. One way I really like to use the Helm is with cards like Chalet. Cards that give all your other creatures indestructible, all your other creatures +1/+1, all your other creatures hexproof. Because if you get this on it, then it boosts her as well, it gives her indestructible, gives her hexproof. Whatever it is, if you put it on one card that does this, both of them now have hexproof, both of them now have indestructible, just makes it better, makes it harder for your opponent to remove stuff like that. It's just good. One other way I liked using it was in a specific game where I copied Gideon Blackblade when he was a creature. Because you can do that with this, and then it does get unequipped because you can't equip stuff to Planeswalkers, but the Gideon Blackblade Planeswalker token also becomes a Planeswalker. It's not just Gideon's Blackblade as a creature, meaning you can get 2 Planeswalkers of the same, 3, 4, so on and so on, and I just think that's a really fun way to combo off with it. There's so much you can do with this, just being able to clone your legendary creatures as well as your regular creatures. It just gives it that little boost up from regular cloning effects for me, and I love this card. I'm really going to miss it when it rotates out of standard. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Here's the list of all the artists who did the artwork for the lands I used as backgrounds in this video. I'll have another Magic the Gathering video out tomorrow for my Magic the Gathering Throne of Eldraine pre-release weekend. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like. If you enjoy my channel, or if you just enjoy watching me suffer, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification to stay up to date on my latest videos. Until next time, I've been Cat Lucifer, this has been Fandomness Randomness CL, thank you so much for watching, TTFN, pip pip cheerio and all that. In other words, goodbye.